You have kettlebells that I don't think anybody else even has in the whole world.
Yeah, 363, I think.
How the hell did you get that?
Well, I know a guy.
Have you tried like a standard deadlift or overhead press?
I do things cold. What I was doing was every morning at the beginning of COVID, I'd walk into my garage cold, and then I would just rip 500 pounds off the ground. Every morning I went in there and I did it at like 5 in the morning. I just ripped my PR, and then I started adding weight to it. My goal right now is to put a 400-pound sandbag to my shoulder, and I'm a $175.
Another big thing you notice is that you're very good at moving through space with weight.
I don't always have to make every lift like move and shift and all that, but ultimately the thought process behind why I'm doing it and the progressive nature of it would lend itself to have some sort of traveling component to it or some sort of weight shifting component to it.
Welcome to the show today, Chris Chamberlin.
Hey, I'm excited.
Thanks for coming in. This is maybe like what, your third time or so?
I think this is second.
Second time being on the show?
I think I did the last one with Dave, I think, yeah.
Cool. Well, we're digging what you're doing. We see the Instagram clips and we're always just like, oh my God, like what is this guy doing with these crazy weights? You have kettlebells that I don't think anybody else even has in the whole world.
Yeah, I try to do that. Yeah, there's a couple other guys now, but
thing like 370 pounds or something?
Yeah, 363, I think.
How the hell did you get that?
Oh, well, I know a guy and I like, yeah, he hooks me up. So yeah, and so it's Colin at, I think it was Great Lakes Gear Up Pro was originally what he was. I think he might be changing his brand right now to like Tactical Strength Supply or something, but he makes, he calls them tweener bells. So for those of us, there are quite a few of us now that are like in to swing over that like 92 kg. He's making like 2 kilo increments, 2 kilo, maybe 4 kilo increments all the way up to 460 pounds.
Super hilarious because like, sweet. You know, you remember like someone would look at like a hotel gym or something and they'd be like, oh, this thing sucks. All it has is 50-pound dumbbells.
Yeah.
Or sometimes commercial gym, people are like, all they have is 100-pound dumbbells.
Yeah.
And now you're kind of swinging around with one arm sometimes.
Yeah.
A nearly 400-pound kettlebell.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, I'm flipping the 92 kg, so 200-pound kettlebell and all that. So.
And what's your body weight?
I'm buck. You know, I think I'm a $175 right now. Yeah. So. I'm pretty happy with where I'm at. I think I just dropped like 15 pounds probably in the past year or something. And I've kind of like in the past month or two, I've been really like seeing that I'm able to retain some of the strength I had with that 15 pounds, like really hitting some weights. Yeah. Me throwing shit.
You know, I don't know if there's a kettlebell that was about to pop up in this one.
Oh, I sent a couple kettlebell clips, I think, to you, Ryan. Me flipping.
Well, you know, an interesting thing is when somebody does go down and look at your Instagram page, I think one of the first things that people are going to ask for is, what's this guy training for? The second thing they'll notice is that you move extremely well, but then they'll also ask themselves, how the hell would I train for all of this? So what are you training for, dude?
Yeah. So to be honest, I pride myself in being a teacher.
Okay.
And really all I'm trying to do kind of at this point is to explore and experience as many modalities and things in movement as I can.
Yeah.
So I can embody that myself and that I can give that to other people. And that's what I'm really after. And I mean, I was a coach. I've been a coach for like 18 years now. And I mean, the first 14, 12 of that, we're working with just normal people and trying to help people in normal things in life and just to enjoy life. And the more I can feel within myself, the more I'm able to offer something to other people. And then in the position I am with like Dave at WEC Method, like I work with my peers now. I work with coaches and I want to do things that are aspirational, that excite them so that they want to understand what I do underneath of all that so they can pass that on to more and more people. So
what does the kind of strength that you have, what does it feel like when it's applied to something like sprinting, something like jumping? And I think you've been doing some jujitsu and stuff like that as well.
Yeah. So basically what I've noticed with a lot of what I do is that I can come into something new with a decent amount of power or strength in it, or I can do well at it without maybe good technical proficiency or something out the gate. So if I care about it, then I can put time and effort and develop a practice behind the thing. But I tend to be able to kind of pop in and do something well with it. Like when I met Dave, like I was a pretty strong guy and I was fast, but I didn't really sprint a lot. But when I did, I could run like I think I ran a 47-400 or something like that, which was pretty fast.
Yeah, that's fast.
I moved to California like 10 years ago, and a couple of guys I worked with at the gym were sprinters, and they were like, "You're not fast. I bet you're not fast. Like, let's go out to the track." And like, I went and like hit the track with them, and they were looking at me. We timed it. We were like, "What?" And they were like, "You just looked terrible running," which is always the thing with me. When I first, I ran like a penguin, but I just had a lot of fucking like butt to me. You know what I mean? Just like work hard. I like working hard. So, but and the same comes with my jumping technique all the time. Like,
It's a little different.
Yeah, I do some bad habits sometimes. I'm improving on it, but like, I just don't always care about that specifically. I just do what feels sort of raw and natural a lot of the time. And I like to trust a big thing I'm trying to kind of get across to like my coaches and stuff is like trusting your intuition a little more and not always going on the like, it's gotta be this way or that way. And like, if you just have the raw effort of like an external task and just getting it done and just see how your body does it and then sort of build off of that thought process and see how you felt doing it and all that. I think there's just a lot of room for, what is this?
I think this is really cool too, just seeing how you're using a dumbbell there, seeing how it's working into your rotational patterns. That's
essentially everything I do and like we're working on is I'm trying to help develop a language that sort of defines that all movement is rotation in some component. You know what I mean? So even the bilateral, like sagittal stuff, like I look at that as a form of rotation. And we talk about that being this torsion principle. Dave throws out the word external, internal torsion a lot of the time. So it's this idea of like working about a center line and pulling through it or around it. So a super simple thing that somebody could do, and you do it, and you have done it before, is make your bed and take the sheet and throw the sheet over the bed. And you're going to move between the two torsion lines, essentially. And you can learn to do that like very fluidly and effortlessly and easy. And like you don't even think about it doing that. You're just getting the task done. Or once you start to understand it, you can start doing drills like isometrics and things that you can start really associating the lines and maybe all the tissue that's involved in it. And then take that and then start moving. I call it like an isolated transition where you try to do something where you're trying to stay in one of them, which you'll start seeing people sort of shape, their body shapes will change based on that. So like fighters, they tend to be kind of like that shoulder forward and they're like always ready to grab and grapple and go. And there's somebody I would refer to as being like a very internally torqued athlete. And then maybe like an endurance athlete, like a sprinter or something, they might be sticking out a little more upright, but sticking out. Like they would be like an external torsion athlete type of thing. So you'll see the shape of the body change a little bit based on things you emphasize. And it starts making you kind of like question, like there's not like a right or wrong of stuff. You just start looking at things as that we're like adaptive and like, I just want to adapt to the thing I want to adapt to. And this is what's going to happen to my body as I do it. And then certain cues and things like that just won't associate to me any longer, like when I'm going through that process. And that's where you get all that like, oh, that's wrong or right type thought.
Have you randomly tried to, like over the last, maybe a couple of years when you started to develop the strength with the kettlebells and these different capacities, have you tried like a standard deadlift or overhead press? Is there anything where you're like, oh, that was pretty interesting because I haven't done that in a long time and I was able to do a set of 3 out of nowhere?
Yeah, so the biggest one with me for deadlift, I don't have like a crazy deadlift or anything, but I can't, what happened is right at the beginning of COVID, I had just been diving into the torsion stuff and really trusting this idea of this internal torque stuff and coiling and everything me and Dave were working on. And at the beginning of COVID, I just locked myself in the garage with my barbell and I was ripping deadlifts because I've always loved deadlifts. And I said I hit a 500-pound deadlift for the first time in my life. Like that was big for me. That's like something I always wanted, like in my strength training forever. Everybody associated to that. But what was cool is I call it jaguaring, is I do things cold. So like I don't do a lot of preparation or even like
you do this on purpose, right?
Yeah. I don't do a lot of preparation in regards to like I'm warming up for the thing, but also in the like I'm building up to actually accomplish this feat of strength. So what I was doing was every morning at the beginning of COVID, I'd walk into my garage cold. I did march on a bozu for like 2 minutes or something like that. And then I would just rip 500 pounds off the ground. It was just a lifetime PR at the time for me. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to do that every day till whatever this stupid thing is done. Like I was like, I'm locked in this garage with my bar, you know what I mean? So every morning I went in there and I did it at like 5 a.m. I just ripped my PR And then I started adding weight to it, and I was ripping another PR, and I was ripping another PR, like every day for me. And that was like huge deal. And it's because I started sort of just trusting, instead of thinking of all the stuff I had to do, walking up to it and getting ready and all that, I just scratched all that. And I kind of went more with the feel and associated to some of the feel of what we were talking about, the torque stuff. And I started, if I thought of anything, I started thinking more about how I was picking up a sandbag or a stone, because I'm pretty exceptional at lifting up a sandbag. I don't care what anybody says. Yeah. So I'm like, my goal right now is to put a 400-pound sandbag to my shoulder, and I'm a $175, and I've done 350, and that's a big deal. I think that's pretty nasty. And I started thinking of a bar more like a sandbag and more of like it having a center line, and how that should feel wrapping around that. And my shape changed in order for me to accomplish lifting it.
Your shape around the deadlift changed?
Yeah. Because maybe like when you look at it, you're like, oh, that's fine technique or whatever. But like all that internal, like what I'm thinking about when I'm doing it, everything I'm hearing somebody tell me to do, like how I'm perceiving like a cue. I noticed this big on, I never had like good strength coaches or people that like really knew what they were doing, teaching me stuff in my lifting career. And like a lot of the cues I would just get heard thrown around, I was hearing them and I was trying to apply them to myself. And what I started noticing is some of the way I would apply that cue was actually opposite of the intention of what the person said. It's because that's how I perceive the cue. Like I just thought of it differently and I never think different or whatever, but I never actually was applying the cue appropriately, but I was applying it so like opposite. And I feel like it was making me not be able to tap into my strength.
I think a good example of that on something like a deadlift is that what you're trying to do on a deadlift is you're trying not to allow your back to move a lot from where it is in the start of the pull.
Yeah.
So you start to pull and maybe you round a little bit, but the idea is to not excessively round a whole lot more than that.
Sure.
And I think that sometimes in the communication, you might have heard, okay, I got to keep my back flat.
Yeah.
And then because you're trying to keep your back flat, you're trying to like arch your back.
Yeah.
And now you go to pull on 500 and it doesn't feel like you have any leverage there. Because maybe for your body type, especially being so good at the sandbags, maybe if you're rounded a little bit, maybe that just feels a lot better for you and you have way better leverage. And now you go to pull 500, you're able to rip it off the ground. But yeah, some of the idea of some of that can get lost in translation. And I love what you're saying about like kind of screw what you're supposed to do. Let me just see what it's supposed to feel like for me. Let me experience that. And I think anyone that wants to really try that, I think it's a good idea to probably explore that with a little bit lighter weight than 500 pounds.
Of course,
but you do learn a lot when it is 500 pounds because there's only one way to lift those near maximal weights.
Yeah. And then I want to throw something out on that because it wasn't like I was like, just scratch everything. I was actually, what I'm thinking there too is we say tools are the teacher in what we work on. And what I was doing is I was reflecting on another tool that I was learning and experiencing something from. And that was stones and sandbags. And what is unique and special about those, not that they're just odd and I get around something, but they create like you have a tactile experience with them. You have things touching your body as you're going up and you're learning from all of that feel. So like now, instead of just always having this dead space when I'm lifting something and I don't know what it feels like to pressurize or engage myself if my spine is going to flex a little more, I have learned from the stone and the sandbag, like, oh, like I know at this point, this is what my body typically does when I have something to wrap and touch and feel and learn from. Now I can just apply it to the other thing. Thing. Yeah, so it was like a take best of this and bring it to this type of experience. Well,
so by the way, why did you call it jaguaring?
Oh, I call it jaguaring. So I call it jaguaring because it's just like cold starts. It's like you're dead. You know what I mean? Like 5 o'clock in the morning, it's freezing cold outside, and you just got to pick some shit up type thing. Like a jaguar, like
an animal.
Yeah, it's gonna run out. It's gonna just catch the thing, run up a tree, and eat it up in a tree. So it's just this maximal effort to get what it needs.
There's
and
no
like,
warm up to
yeah,
go.
and there's no warm up. Yeah, so I love that. Yeah, and I always love the idea of like a jaguar is up in a tree usually. So I like the idea of like catching something and running up a tree. It's like just more effort to it. It's not a cheetah.
Where did the 500-pound deadlift journey? Where did it end? Because you were adding weight progressively for a while.
Let's see. So I want to say I kind of was at like a 415 thing for a long time. I found out I was having a baby. and that jumped up to 465. I rode that adrenaline to that.
Yeah.
And then from there, that's where I got to the 500 another thing. And I think on that little journey during the pandemic, I think I got up to 525, which was from a 465. That was huge. And I wasn't deadlifting. Like I would deadlift maybe twice a month periodically. So that felt really big to me to be able to do that. Actually, at that time, a lot of what I was doing was I was teaching our courses for WEC Method, and they were like these 3-day events. And the most part, I'm using ropes, I'm working on Bosu balls, and I'm working with clubs and pulsers. And like, that's what I was doing. Like that was the bulk of my work, you know? And like, I was taking all that and carrying it over to things that were making me stronger. So
the reason why I love that you mentioned that, though, is because I think we were literally, who was the coach we were just having a conversation with where we were talking about that you don't have to keep spamming the same movement to get stronger at that movement? Who was it? Was it just a few days?
We talk about it quite a bit, the capacities, you know?
Yeah, but we were just talking to this coach because, he was talking about strengthening deadlifts because he works with all lifters, and a lot of lifters, actually, no, I was talking with him with fitness FAQs, a lot of lifters, when they're trying to get a stronger deadlifter squat, they'll just keep doing that movement into perpetuity. And maybe they'll do a few accessories that still have to do with that movement without realizing that if you go and strengthen other capacities that may have to do tangentially with that, you can still get stronger at the movement without doing the movement, right? So, you're spending time not deadlifting repetitively, but you're doing other things and boom, you come back, the skills you've built still help you deadlift more weight.
Yeah,
cool.
Sure. Yeah, that's what you want, man. Yeah, and not have to be repetitive on things, I think is awesome. I'm not like trying to get good at the gym. I want to get good at life and get good at the idea that I can go pick up things at a decent ability at something, so I'm not useless. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
How did you start to come to some of these conclusions on lifting like more unconventional? Do you have a lifting background where you were more conventional?
So my history, the biggest thing in my history is I grew up like, my dad's a blue collar. I worked with him and my brother, and we were carpenters, and we would like build houses together and do projects, just the three of us.
Me and Nsima are out. We can't do real man stuff. So.
Yeah, so
or at least I'm out.
I mean, I'll kick you the fuck out, man. No, you got to be able to fucking put the thing
We'd
in
be
the
so
truck.
tired.
Just on that real quick, a funny thing is like sometimes like with a sandbag or something like that too, I'll be like, I need you to put this in my truck right now. Like, you'll just pick it up and put it in the fucking truck. We don't have to talk about how you're going to pick it up and how you're going to do all this stuff. Like, get the job done.
Yeah.
Like
You pull your pants up and you look at it a couple times.
Yeah,
You're like, oh,
sometimes you got to just do stuff like that. All right. So I love that kind of mentality sometimes, or at least to let somebody get over that mental barrier, maybe them holding themselves back. So we can get to technical lifting stuff too. I'm cool with that as well. So
I'm going to say it's just so funny, and keep on with what you're mentioning after this, but it's so funny. As I post more sandbag stuff, I get so many comments of people being like, just go out and do a job. Just go out and do a labor job. Why are you lifting like this? Go out and work. You know?
It's because I did that for a while. You don't want to do that. It's all right. You learn from it, but it's a good skill to have, but no, you don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Conventionally, so most of I would just say my intuition to how to move weight and stuff and myself came from that, like practical external things I had to do. Like they were just terrifying things I did as a carpenter with my dad. And like I think the scariest thing I've ever done in my life was I did like they have this like 8 stories, and they had this like custom wooden staircases that we were building that were pre-built. And I think they weighed like 1,200 pounds. It was like just me and my dad, like fixing these things up because they're pre-built, and then you gotta like nail them in. And like the first one, it was like kind of fine, you're on flat ground, but then when you're on like another set of stairs on a rinky-dink ladder and your dad like lets go of it, so you have to support the weight while it's being held up, you're like, I have to rely on just being a fucking mutant right now to do this. So you kind of like get that fear in you to be strong and be efficient. That was the big thing, is being efficient. Like my brother is like 6'3" and 250 and all-state tight end, and like I'm $165 and like 5'10", like having to keep up with people that are bigger than you, I think is a big thing. But conventionally, football, we would do some weight training, but it was just awful. I always felt really terrible. I had a really bad experience with it. My brother had just kind of left school as that big guy. I came in and like they were looking for the next Chamberlin to kind of like step up, and they were pushing me and just wrecking my body. I did not feel good. So I kind of ditched all that. I didn't even care about fitness anymore. Fucking hated it. And And then I got into kettlebells. That was sort of the thing that pulled me back in. And very cliche, it was the 300 movie and the Jim Jones guys. Mark Twight, the little 300 workout, it had one kettlebell lift in it, the single arm clean and press.
Yeah.
And there was one kettlebell in my entire county at one gym that was 60 pounds, so way too heavy. And it was like jagged and nasty, but I had to get good at it. And I got obsessed with that piece of equipment because I got to learn it myself. It had a little skill set to it. There was room to like develop something with it. It wasn't just pumping out reps. You kind of had to get a feel of it and the nuances of it. And I think that tool really sort of like catapulted me into like loving movement again and lifting again. So yeah, no. And back then, like I know kettlebell guys, it was always like the 48 kg, the 100 pound was always like this big, like feat of strength to be able to accomplish in the kettlebell world, if you're familiar. And now we're just like there's a bunch of us just throwing around big motherfuckers. So
I think with a dumbbell, I'm sure you could probably figure it out with a dumbbell, but you don't really you tend to get like a little bit more collision with a kettlebell, and then it's a little bit more traditional. Although you could do this with a dumbbell all day long too, but a little more traditional to swing a kettlebell around kind of one at a time, which I just think, it just presents movement in many different ways. And then the distribution of the weight is just so different.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Working that grip too, because usually a kettlebell handle is like pretty thick.
Yeah. I'm going to also mention this. I think one of the big things, and I think if anybody then just goes and watches you work out, another big thing you notice is that you're very good at moving through space with weight. It's not just, and there's nothing wrong with just lifting weight and like by curls, presses, deadlifts. But when you're doing a lot of these movements, there's a lot of other movement going on. And you're building the ability to move through space with mass versus just being stationary and moving it, which I think is a skill in of itself.
Yeah. And then that comes down to like everything that I preach and teach. Ultimately, there should be some sort of locomotive aspect to it. Our goal at WEC Method is to get every step stronger. And like, I don't always have to make every lift like move and shift and all that. Like, but ultimately the thought process behind why I'm doing it and the progressive nature of it would lend itself to have some sort of traveling component to it or some sort of weight shifting component to it. This is like that head over foot thought Dave throws out, right? The idea of getting the weight to shift through the core or through the feet, like through the actual base of support. So
is it a theory of yours kind of that you think that most people should be able to get into some pretty good exercise without much of a warm-up?
Yeah, absolutely. I think human beings are fucking incredible like creatures, and like we just don't give ourselves enough credit for that. Like we're really fucking capable. We do not have a lot of reasons that we need to be like in great shape anymore, unfortunately and fortunately, all at the same time. Like that's kind of like, you don't want to feel like everything has to be a fight and like we have to work really hard for everything. But like, I think I'm very fortunate that like I had to work like an actual job, like hard working labor job, because it gave me that like just ability to be in tune with that thought. But I think everybody should absolutely like strive for things to feel comfortable and easy and not have it be this big ordeal and not have to feel like you just have to dedicate so much time to it either. Like it should just become part of your life. And like, so you can spend time with your kids and spend time with your family and spend time doing the things you love. And I really love that idea that like, we say like every step stronger, because realistically, like every little step I take is a rep, and that's making me feel like I'm accomplishing something that is making me better at the next thing I'm going to do. So when I walk in the gym, I'm already ready because I took 2,000 steps to get here today. Like I've been prepping, and I recommend like developing like a body scan. Like everybody sort of probably has things that they sort of pick up. If you're into moving, you sort of do things for yourself that you kind of are like, yeah, I think I'm ready. Like I'm ready. Like finding things that are just quick, that feel systemic, that tell you if you're ready or not. Not like you can be a little off of it. It doesn't have to be perfect, but like you're good enough. You're not going to hurt yourself. Like it's fine.
You think some of that comes through your programming? Like, perhaps when you're doing some of these movements that we see on your Instagram, perhaps there's not a lot of sets to these. There's a good intensity, But I'm just imagining maybe you're not doing like, sometimes a bodybuilder might do 6 to 8 sets of a particular exercise, and then they go on to another exercise that works the same muscle group. And so from that, we can kind of extrapolate the fact that the bodybuilder might feel super sore going into a workout. And that's why they think they need or feel that they need so many sets, because they've, broken down so much muscle tissue. But maybe the style of training that you're using, where you got your intensity is high, maybe your volume's not crazy. I'm just
no. It honestly really depends. Typically, I actually try to hit like all layers of volume and intensity, maybe in a set. Like I'll do things that I think would be like maximal effort and expression for like under a certain amount of reps. I usually say like under 20 reps. I'm going to do things like traditionally I'll throw balls at walls. That's kind of my thing. I'll do like with just full intensity. I usually do 3 sets of 6. And then I'll move into something where I would do maybe something like a 6x6 or an 8x8 of certain things. And I just might, this is where I'll get to how I make sure I feel good with it. And I sent you, Ryan, one video. I think I called it rotational ratio. It's like an old one. I got a mohawk in it, and it's not the best one for like weight training, but it will demonstrate a thought process. And the idea is that I teach this ratio of rotation. I like to say everything is rotation at this point. Like I don't look at anything otherwise. You cannot not rotate in my mind.
True.
And what I do is if I like a traditional thought process or set rep scheme, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take like a squat pattern would be an example. And I'm going to do a bilateral squat. I'm going to do a coiled squat, and I'm going to do a rotational squat, which means and what that does is that makes it so I have to do a coiled squat on right and left. I'll hit the center, and then I do the RMT or the left to right, and that will give me this sort of walk it off feel. So that might look like a Bulgarian split squat on the right, a Bulgarian split squat on the left. I'll do a back squat, and then I'm going to do walking lunges across the room. All things you love, and probably I've already done. It's just I organize it in that way specifically because the coil, the side bending, will allow you to have more stability when you're doing like a Bulgarian split squat. You'll tap into a deeper like range of motion, especially in your spine, that you'll be able to feel and gather and get like just that little morsel more of getting the bar down your back when you go to hit a back squat. So I learned from the first skill. It's prepping me for the back squat. And then I'll do that RMT or that walking lunge, which will have me switching or shifting my weight, which brings it back to that locomotive thought process. And like now I'm walking out that back squat and I don't feel stiff and I don't feel like locked up. And I don't care what the intensities are of that. You could prioritize, I want to be like working on that back squat and I'm chasing weight. But now I'm mixing in accessory work around it. And you could do whatever you want with that. You know what I mean? The Bulgarian could have just been an isometric that you just did enough of it to feel comfortable and feel ready to do the back squat. It doesn't have to be like 20 reps or something like that. So, yeah.
Being able to handle the stresses of your day, the stress of exercise, and being able to stick to your nutrition plan takes good rest and good quality sleep the night before. And if your mouth is opening during sleep, or if you're snoring, well, your sleep quality is compromised. That's why we've partnered with the best mouth tape in the game, Hostage Tape. If you have a beard, it's going to stay on. If you have a CPAP, it's going to stay on. This tape is not going to fall off your mouth like most other tapes do when you're asleep. And to enhance the way you breathe through your nose, they also have no strips.
Head over to hostagetape.com/powerproject where you can get a 3-month supply of Hostage Tape for only 65 cents a night. On top of that, you're going to receive a free pack of nail strips as well as a bedside tin. Again, that's at hostagetape.com/powerproject. Links in the description as well as the podcast show notes.
I like how, go ahead. I like what you mentioned there because because I still do back squats. I think there's like the ability for you to load that up, the compressive benefits for the body. There's benefit there. Yeah. But in between sets of that, I'll obviously do some rope flow between sets because for me personally, when I do too much of that type of work, I just feel way too compressed. Yeah. Right. And doing rotational work in between allows me to almost like, I feel as if I'm able to work that compression out. And I feel normal again. I feel poppy again. And then I can go back and do that other type of movement. Yeah. So your program, like you have specific movements that allow you to then do this thing, but then right after it, you have something else that allows you to feel poppy again.
Yeah. Yeah. And it can with all the stuff we're doing too, it could be like, I like rope flow. Like that's the tool I want to use in between it. It's the thing that I associate to as a person to get that sense of it.
Yeah.
But it can be anything that you like. But that's what I really love about, like, I'm trying to like help define every type of movement you do to sort of like associate like to that RMT thought. Cause that would be the RMT. It's RMT rope flow. Like that's ours, right?
Yeah.
And that practice is almost going to, it doesn't force you to be RMT all the time, but it will put you there. It's easy to do it with it, and it's super easy. It's a soft practice.
Yeah.
That can become intense if you want it to be, but it tends to be soft, so it pairs really well with somebody that wants to do something that's super intense if they're trying to intermix it into stuff. So
what did that, I mean, I think there's some video of like your preliminary practice with rope flow, but how long ago did you learn it? And what did it do for you with your background?
Yeah, I mean, I learned it from Dave, I guess like 6 years ago. That's, I think, when I came on board with WEC Method. And I was right at a point that I was starting to feel like meh, like with my body. Like at the gym, like I'm moving, I would always feel good the whole time I'm there, but like going home and hanging out, like I just kind of feel like, like I don't feel like what I'm feeling like at the gym. Why don't I feel that way all the time? Something's not clicking here. Like this is supposed to be making me better. And that practice in particular, when I learned it, it was real clunky and wow, I'm trying to download it. And I think there's a video of my start of that, or some of my earlier videos of me roping. But I noticed that like my way of thinking was the first thing I think I got. Like that cross symmetry, like that, the brain harmonizing, like it wasn't flow at that point. You know what I mean? I was just rolling this rope and like, I just felt really good and susceptible to learning new things, which happened to be, I was going to digest and download all that. I had actually just gotten off a juggling course as well with a juggling guy, which I got a lot of that kind of work from that. But there was a lot
of like classical juggling with like pins and shit?
I got to pins, actually. I got to 3 pins.
Okay.
And I was doing 4 ball and 3 pins.
Yeah.
And it was like for this little movement culture, like group I was part of, and we would all like try different things together. For like months at a time or whatever. But I just gotten off that, and then I got on the rope thing. And what was great about it is I got a lot of the same like stimulation from it, but I didn't have all that room for failure. And like somebody's not going to want to pick up juggling maybe per se, like some people will, but it has a lot of room to drop the ball and feel like shit about what you're doing. You quit. I don't want to do this. It's stupid. Like, what am I getting from it? And I was like immediately getting all the same sort of like stimulation from the rope. And like, you couldn't really mess up, because even when you messed up, it like wasn't really a mess up. It just kind of keeps going. Yeah. Which is really nice. So if you care about it and you think there's going to be benefit, you can just like download it pretty quickly. And then I went from being a little clunky thing, and now like I can move just athletically now. I would say I didn't feel like I moved athletically, and like athletes coming in and they're like, wow, you like move exactly like my sport. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, cool. I couldn't do that 6 years ago. So that's pretty incredible. And a lot of it comes from this, because
looks like you're trying to get away from a bull or something like that.
Yeah, so
like
technically what I'm showing here, so this is really advanced. And if you're just getting into this practice, if you've heard about it, what I usually demonstrate on in my practice is I drill, and because I know the foundation so well, I don't flow, and I don't really care about the practice in that regard. I'm looking for nuanced things that aren't being done yet. And something I'm doing here is with most swinging implements, like I think you're throwing along maces and stuff a lot now in Nsima, you're going to notice that it carries that mill sense to it, like it's going one way. And it like, to get it to turn, you have to stop it to change the direction of it. Yeah. Okay. Or you have to deviate the line of the tool in order to get it to change directions. What's really unique about that rope is, in those ones specifically, I was changing, like you'll notice the rope was going this way, and then I'd use a single effort and I get the rope to turn. So like it just sort of like, for like weapons work, that would be like real dope, because you'd be able to like fight people from all over the place or whatever. But with like immediately, I'm not like turn, I got you now. You know what I mean? You can just make that quick adjust type thing. So, but yeah, that practice has evolved a ton. The biggest things I noticed is biggest thing is it opened my mind up to learning new things, and I like learning new things, and it made that easier.
Do you mean figuratively or literally?
Literally.
There we go.
Yeah, like literally. Yeah. Like I just felt like everything that comes out of this guy's, like Dave's mouth, you could just understand all of it the more and more you do. And I just started feeling like this athletic competency. Like I could just start pulling things off I'd never done before. And I was pretty rigorous about it. I probably spent 4 or 5 hours a day doing it right away. I would kind of obsess about things when I get on it. I go through like these little phases of like downloading information pretty aggressively like that, movement wise. And it's one that has stuck like forever since that.
We see it happen quite a bit in just nutrition space and in fitness in general. Like when people lose weight, when people lose like excessive amounts of weight and they hold that new body weight, the way that they view things, their interpretation of everything changes drastically. So there's like a learning process that ends up happening as somebody gets healthier. And I think what happens, with the rope flow, I mean, someone could maybe study it or something like that. But I think because you have the left and right side of the brain working, a lot of eye things are going on. There's a lot of stuff going on with your eyes. I think that it's really opening up your brain. It's almost in a way is like making the math simpler. Like that's the easiest way I could probably put it.
That's a great way.
But it's like the Matrix a little bit. Like just everything's going to, not everything, but a lot of things are going to make a lot more sense to you after you do that. Someone could show you a layup, right? You do a layup from the right side, the right side, the right side. The left side's terrible.
Yeah.
Like I don't understand the left side. I don't understand the left side. And potentially when you do something, I'm not saying it's going to all of a sudden make you proficient at doing a layup, but it's probably opening up more things like that maybe you aren't currently proficient at.
Yeah. Yeah. And that, if you're listening to the rope, because like that, you have that cordage between the right and left hand, like you're communicating to that left hand, right? We did the tin can throw. I think Dave might have done it. This thing, but if I'm taking my dominant hand and I'm sending information to that non-dominant hand and I'm letting it learn and feel patterns and accumulate an ungodly amount of volume. Like just an ungodly amount. Like I say, you got to get your 10,000 reps in. That sounds like a lot of reps, but you can just like knock that out if you do 10 minutes a day for like a week or something like that, whatever it is, like 2 weeks or something. Like you just all of a sudden you got 10,000 reps under your belt of something. They're like proficient at it now.
Especially on your weak side. Like really think about that. And if you're listening, go ahead.
Oh, no, go. No.
Yeah, if you're listening, just really think about like you never throw anything on your left side. You usually don't rotate. If you're a right-handed person, you never rotate on that side. Now you're getting in those healthy repetitions on that side and making it catch up to your dominant side. Yeah, that's like transfer to sport or transfer to anything. That's massive.
That's just good. It's just good for you. It's good for your health and your wellness. And something I will throw on there as well as a big thing is this rope flow. Like it started with us. It started with Dave. And it's moved on a lot. It's blowing up everywhere as we're seeing it like around the world. And a big piece of our practice still and what I push on it, like if you come to learn from us directly, is it's also the rotational movement practice that we do. It's the learning how to like actually root that flow practice to your core and the spinal engine and how your weight should transfer and shift between it, because that tool also, it allows you to, I think I did this with you with the staff, maybe in Nsima.
We haven't done staff together yet. No, we didn't get to staff yet. We'll do that soon.
Yeah, what you'll see with the rope is that like I can sit here and do these like figure eights in front of my body and my thumbs can stay up. And like, hey, I'm getting it done. But you like, if I put a staff in your hand and you're holding it like this and you try to do a figure eight in front of your body, it's flat. It won't move. You have to learn little behaviors like turning both thumbs down and things that start to make you coil from left to right. That like is a huge piece of our foundation to the practice, because I can have somebody sit there because that joint on that rope allows it to just make up for things you're maybe not quite ready for or don't understand that are a piece of that practice. And I feel like if you don't end up tapping that, if you're not feeling that component of it, you might like step away from the practice, or because like maybe you're like, I don't know what this is. Like I'm doing this figure eight thing. It's not quite what I want it to be yet. And it's when you start feeling like your weight shift and you get that like locomotive thought behind it, that it really starts to like click and do something for you. Do
you think some of this is so helpful because that, humans are probably designed for some dance?
Yeah.
I mean, because you kind of dance, it's a way to dance without like feeling like a klutz,
it's like a systemic coordination. Like, and we're designed to hold things and feel things, and tactile experiences are huge. You learn from those. And like, putting a tool in your hand is always going to make you, give me a drink. Like I'm going to talk better here right now. Having something in my hands can make me feel comfortable. You know what I mean? I forgot my water. But like that experience helps you learn more. And like even going out on a dance floor, that can be nerve wracking for somebody, because like there's empty space between me and you, and like I gotta figure out how this meat bag works in this, you know what I mean? But if you put something in my hands, you give me an instrument or something, maybe I can feel like a little groove to it, because I have something to hold on to and work with. So I think having a tool is essential. So like what you end up learning with that is just like every tool is going to have specific feedbacks and like things that it amplifies. And it's trying to milk as much out of that specific feedback for each tool as possible. Like just do it. That's what I said. All tools are great. Tools are teachers. Please make more random ass fucking fitness gadgets that seem like they're dumb, because they're awesome, because there's probably something in it that's worth a while to like gather something from. And it's up to you as a human being to like go, oh, that's it. Like I'm going to milk that out of that. And then like, don't use it for anything else. So, yeah.
What do you think some of the main movement practice is that you guys are trying to communicate to people? Because some of what I see when you talk about the coil and things like that, I see there's a lot of rotation, but there's also just like, I guess like a dipping of like a shoulder, like there's one collarbone high, one collarbone low, something that happens when you go to like throw something and you end up with some, twisting and stuff like that. So yeah, how would you sort of define some of what you're trying to help people improve?
Yeah. So that thought, like you'll see a lot of the extreme positions we do, like the extreme range of motion of it. We call that the end range of rotation. That is the coil. That is when we have that like aggressive high elbow or like high shoulder, low shoulder. And that's we do a lot of isometrics in that. So I try to do a lot of long duration isometrics.
You'll even hike one hip up a little bit, right?
Yeah, and you can like chase that. Yeah, so they meet.
You kind of compress one side a ton, and then maybe that's opening up the other side.
Yeah, it opens the other side, which would leave room for breathing a little differently, things like that. But and you'll notice like if you screen cap a bunch of different sort of like positions in sports, you're going to notice at those like events, those moments, you'll see that shape pop up a lot, all right? And it's usually as you're moving through something, right? So a big task of ours is to open up that range of motion and like let everybody know it's okay, because it's actively been said that it's not okay, but we all do it, right? So
certainly don't do it any weights ever.
Yeah. And I put my own body through the ringer on like showing that you can do all this with heavy weight type thing, or heavy enough weight. Like what you're saying, like moving with weight in places you don't typically see people move with weight.
Yeah.
And then, like once you open that up, it's to recognize that like if I have this side and I have this side, I have everything in between. And then it's okay that it doesn't have to always look like this. Like it can be this. And like when I'm working with somebody, it can be like scissored, and like it's recognizing based on the task. If I can tap more of the verticality of it, I think there's more efficiency, but the task may not always dictate that. You know what I mean? I brought up like, I've talked about me being a carpenter, and a big thing that I really associate to understanding why that mattered was that when I carried plywood, when I was building houses, and I built a lot of custom cabinets, and like you get under the weight, you had to feel yourself coil and then get over it. So under and over something, and it's keeping you from wanting to be in the center because it's a huge sheet of wood on the side of your body, and you have to traverse terrain with it and move and do something with it. You can't just stand here with it. So you have to create a long side and a short side, and then you have to go through the gait cycle to be able to get it where you want it to go. And then you really quickly start noticing like, I need to do this on my left side or my right side, like, because you start to feel like a major imbalance from doing that.
What do you guys call that? Side?
That's being on the side is coiling.
But you call it like side by side or something. What's the term?
Side, center, we say. So if you have the right side, you have to do the left side, and that educates the center. All right. So right, left, I have everything in between. Right. And that's
so I've seen you run where you're like on one side.
Oh, the same side. Yeah. Same side stride. Yeah.
Same side stride.
There. Yeah. And what you'll start noticing is that like, I like to look at things as like movement is about strategies. I don't look at it as like right, wrong. It's about why is it happening and when can I use it and things like that. And like that same side thought process, it's really good for like mountaineering, downhill stuff.
Maybe carrying up like luggage up a flight of stairs or something. So you just dump everything to kind of one side. It's kind of what you would do. Definitely
downstairs. Like any mountaineer will tell you, like you got to like get into like you're picking a side so you're not like flying down the hill. Yeah, this would be the same side stride. So you can just see I sort of lock into that position there. That would be if you, not that I shoot guns or anything that often, but you could imagine like rifling. So if you had a rifle, You kind of have to pick a side to keep vertical displacement from happening.
Would that be a good idea to utilize on a track, on like a 400,
Yes,
like
so-
leaning into that 400?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Is I did this with Barefoot. Graham. I'm like, I can't think of Graham's name right now. But basically the way I use it around the track is I run normal, or like the left right, this RMT up to the corner, and then you use it to lean. You drop into it. It's kind of cool. You almost feel like you torpedo, so you accelerate into the corner. Like you would like in a bike or a car. Like you're going to accelerate into the corner, and you get to kind of get this sort of internal experience of feeling like you're accelerating in the corner and it's staying in the corner rather than this like wanting to shift back and forth. Like I'm committing to the idea of it. And yeah, I've smoked some people around a corner on the track, which is pretty dope. So, but so I think just getting this idea side, center, and that they're just all going to work hand in hand with each other. So
some of the video there, you had the propulsors going, and I like David's vest and stuff that he made, and it's just amazing what having a cue can really do. Like, so you're talking about running with like a stick or doing different things with a stick, and then having the rope is a tool. Yeah, and I think it's just a great idea because now you have some sort of you got some sort of feedback. Yes, kind of hard. Like you just go out and run. Running's fun and running's great, and I would say a proficient runner probably has tons of feedback. They maybe don't even have a whole lot to worry about. They probably have been exploring it for a while. They run fast enough to where they're probably feeling a lot of cool stuff. They get the runner's high. They end up with a lot of stuff. But for a lot of other people who are just starting with some running, I think it's a great idea to, or even just trying to be more athletic, get some of these propulsors in their hands.
Yeah, I know in my early, like when I first got into fitness, I went on a rabbit hole of I gotta be barefoot and minimalist, and I need to start running barefoot and all this stuff. I got into my little foot thing early on, and what I noticed is that I overthought all that, and I had terrible mechanics running, and I hurt like hell trying to run barefoot all the time. And then I started associating it to running barefoot. That was the problem, and that wasn't it. And it was that I had too much to think about. Why I was trying to control something that is just innate to you too heavily. And what I have found is just, again, having tools that are designed to provide you something to think about, because you want to think, you're trying to work on something, but it's you can focus on that and let all the other stuff just kind of roll behind it. You know what I mean? So that taking the person out of what's supposed to be happening and into the task. I'm trying to run and I want to run with this thing, not how is my foot supposed to strike and how is all this supposed to happen? It helps time up and make that work out for itself type thing. And you sort of meet your body where you're at. And I'm really big into that. Any tasks or tools that can amplify a task by taking you away from the actual task, at hand, and focus on something else that kind of carries you along.
Let me ask you this then: when it comes to something like the RMT clubs, you have the ropes you guys use, there's propulsors, there's the clubs. So, what have you found to be powerful about the way you use those? Because if we were able to pull out any video of you using them, you don't see many people using them in that way. And obviously, it's because you're very proficient with it. But what have you found to be great about that piece of equipment for yourself? So
that piece of equipment, I've been working with clubs and maces since I was 17. Right when I got into kettlebells, I made my own homemade clubs as well, out of steel pipe. And what's really cool about that one is it has that same sort of steel shot in it, just like the propulsors. And so it gives you an audible feedback. And it also allows you to sort of spike the force in it. So using the 4-pound one we have is enough. And I swing on a 100-pound club. So a 4-pound club is good.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. It has its own little meat to it. But basically what I've loved about that is it creates an experience where somebody can learn from it via the sound. So when I'm doing a lot of the traditional Agata club, Indian club, all that stuff work, people don't always know if they're fully tractioned, if they're in the right place at the right time. And that thing will make a little shudder at you. It makes noise when we're doing a lot of that fluid type movement, that circular sort of strength.
Yeah.
It becomes quiet. So we can give a person a task hey, we're going to try this move, but I need you to keep it quiet. And they will find sort of those safe spots for themselves. And what I have seen a lot of people do is when they're first learning that stuff, people might be telling somebody to be very like long and elongated when they do it, but that may not actually feel good in the person's body, and they may make sound when they do that. But if they're sort of like a little tighter and a little off, and you'd think they're not maybe getting what you want out of it, it's quiet and it's perfect. And they're like, wow, this feels really good. And the shape of it looks different than like just traditional cueing maybe on the task. And it allows the person to trust their own intuition on what they're experiencing.
Yeah.
So like in that group environment or something that somebody's trying to teach somebody and they're trying to blanket a cue, or maybe even 2 or 3, they're a coach that feels like at least they can offer a couple different solutions, but you don't have all the solutions. The person is experiencing it right then, right now, and you should be trying to help somebody develop a trust in what they're experiencing and how to wield that, and then change shapes and understanding of a movement from there, basically. And that tool, any of these audible feedback tools, like that's a whole special category of stuff that I think like we're tapping into pretty heavily right now. Is just things that you can hear, and it gives a tactile experience too, something to feel when it's being done correctly. So,
and I really like what you mentioned there, because like, again, you're going to be working with people with different types of tissue quality, different types of mobility restrictions. And it's like the way that they move that mace, the way that they're able to potentially let it track is not going to be the same as somebody else, but they're going to be able to do what their body gives them. And over time, that will get better as they practice it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So instead of trying to make it look like perfect, you make it be perfect for them at this point in time.
Yeah, and they'll get that. It feels good for them because we do still have the consistency of like, mine's quiet, yours is quiet, right? So we both are doing something the same, right? And that's awesome.
Yeah.
So, and it feels like, I love the idea of trying to like move like somebody's feeling. I've gotten that from like a lot of dancers. Like a dancer will like, they want to see, like you can watch somebody when they're dancing and they're doing it like methodically, like the technique, and you're like, I mean, that's really awesome and you're incredible. But like when somebody dances with feeling,
Who popped up in your head in Nsima?
Nobody popped in my head.
But that like inspires you when you see that, and you can sort of like, it gives you maybe something you might feel kind of. But yeah, I think that's.
No, I
think it's important
to
to think the same thing as like when you have a client or somebody you're working with, or just like you should be able to, ideally it's good if you can do the movement, but if they can try to feel like what maybe you think I'm feeling in this or something too. I think that's kind of a cool little way to associate to stuff. So
how do you interpret pain? Like an ouchie, a soreness. You let's say you did a bunch of work yesterday and my right ankle feels a little, that's interesting. What is that?
Yeah, so like pain and all that. I've been fortunate not to have like too many like major aches and pains in my life. I do get them. A lot of them come from like contact-y type things. So like hitting something on my body, that would be the normal. You should listen to pain and you should work around pain. And if you can find strategies that help you get out of it, that's wonderful. And like something you're probably going to have to do is walk, you know what I mean? Unless you have some major structural damage you just got that you need to chill for a little bit. But it's like, how do you deal and work around the pain? And then how do you then get it back to something that was consistent prior to the pain? Because like you're going to build a lot of compensations through it and stuff. So that's what I love about having strategies is like, if we just take walking, it's traditionally a right-left thing, and I'm shifting weight. All of a sudden, I hurt my left ankle. You're going to get a little bit of a giddy up to you. Something's going to happen, and now I have a strategy that is reliant on one side, like same side walking or something like that. So I can actively commit to a strategy that I very clearly know why I'm doing it and what is happening, so that as my ankle is getting less pressure on it, I'm feeling a little better, everything recovers, I can then actively do that side and sort of make up for all of the imbalance maybe I was doing, and then get back to my left rights. You know what I mean? And I could actively get myself out of the hole in regard to that.
Yeah, a lot of the ways I like to look at it when something hurts after a particular day, obviously there's like, tears and other things that can happen, but just kind of minor aches and pains, I'm like, oh, that's an adaptation. We've been messing around with these mace things with our hands and wrists and stuff. And after you do, and then plus I was doing a bunch of myofascial release on the elbow and the forearm and the wrist and stuff. And man, just this whole arm just was super sore. But I was like, oh, that's just what it needs. You know, it needs to go through this process so it feels like this side.
Yeah, dude, I think we're just like totally adaptable, and like everything is just like you're putting a new stimulus in there. So yeah, you're going to get all that, like that kind of stuff to it, of course. And if it's something you care about, you'll commit to it and that will go away. But I like chasing all that stuff. And I like looking for something that's consistent that I can take to that new experience. So like for me, the second I start that, like I'm so like that coil has become like a body scan for me, and it's a consistency that I will feel through my movement.
You say it's a body scan. Like, what do you mean in application?
So like I can be at the grocery store and I can go like, everything, like I can feel everything connect. I've built a systemic connection to it. So that little contraction, that spike I get there, I recognize how that fluidly moves to my hands and my feet. So if I do that and like, or I don't feel it when I go to do it, something's off. And I'm like, oh, like I'm going to actually get a massage today. Like I don't ever do that, but something's off. So
can we talk about this for a bit? This ability to have a good body scan, like developing a level of awareness. I think that's something important that potentially sometimes when you don't have certain full body movement practices, maybe you miss out on being able to really tell how good do you feel, right? So what would your suggestions be for somebody to build an awareness of their body and be able to check in to know when, I can go about this. Today's a good day, or you should back off.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing there is like, if you're somebody that does not have an intuitive sense of yourself, you have to develop that. And you got to develop it around something. And if you're not going to drive yourself to it, you have a coach. And the coach's responsibility is to help you do that. And a lot of coaches don't maybe even know how to do that for somebody. And for me, that is what our entire movement strategy is about. It has an end range thing that has to do with weight transfer and a systemic thought process. It's a coil. That is the solution for me, for anybody that will ever come to me, to start at that thought and feel that contraction and then work from there. They don't have to be perfect at it, but that would be the start for us. And we have free everything on how to do that with somebody. Like right out the gate, you can go to WEC Method and there should be a Royal Coil like tutorial or something like that. And you can just start there. Dave, we say WEC Method starts on the wall now. And it's just this little wall stretch. It's literally, a lot of people do it like a suspension trainer or something, like a QL stretch where you're just like holding the TRX and lean in or something. Like anything like that will start associating to something. A feeling is what I'm after, is a feeling and a position. And then work from there. Basically.
And can you describe when somebody who is not used to coiling, when they go into a coil for the first time, what's mostly the feedback that you tend to get?
My back feels better is usually the first thing I get. Yeah, they're like, whoa, I felt something I never felt, which was crazy that I even got that experience when I first felt. I was like, what the fuck? Like, I've been moving my body like crazy. Like, how did I not even feel this feeling yet from such a simple concept?
It's wild.
Yeah. And then, people, it's usually just like, wow, like that felt really good. Like they'll tell me the back feels a little better. Like they've never felt that. And then I usually get the big smile. And that's usually what I'm after. I want to see somebody happy while they're doing something and trusting their experience on it. So I try to not even be too handsy with people anymore when I first expose them. I try to kind of guide them without it so that they can develop their own experience on it and trust themselves. So that's a big piece of that journey of somebody developing a body scan, is trusting their own instincts on something. And the gym, there's a lot of, that's not the right way. Do it this way. It's it. And like the person's like made the honest effort to fucking get to the gym and try something for themselves without help. And they're sometimes shut down immediately or told it's not right. Or like I don't want that. Like, cause it could be totally right for you. And I don't fucking care what anybody says. You know what I mean? So that's a big piece of it, is that developing that intuitive sense of self and how to do it. And you gotta give people legs up and wins as much as possible, right? So that like walk for 10 minutes a day. Like you preach that, right? Like just get up, get off the couch, walk, and like trust that experience. And like it doesn't have to be 10 minutes. Maybe it's 7.5 minutes. Like maybe that's when you're like, my ankle's starting to feel low. I'm gonna go sit down. But like Mark said 10, like, no, just 7.5 minutes. Like you fucking got up and did it. Like, and you listened to yourself that it was 7.5 and not 10. And that's fucking money right there, that you're learning from yourself and trusting yourself. So then you can move your practice on. So.
What's it like working at the lab? You get to experiment every day, right?
Yeah, that's what it's about, man. I mean, it's exploring things. It's trying to push the needle forward. Get a lot of really awesome, like bright people that come in, incredible athletes you get to just experience and see how they move and like see how everything applies and cross references between different things. Like being able to work with a UFC fighter, work with an Olympic swimmer, and like work with field athletes and like all be saying the same sort of thing to each of them and seeing them improve, like just across the board like that. And then even, and like, cause I have an aggressive practice and I like to move, like being able to sort of like take on some of those experiences with them as well. And like feel for myself what it feels like to do those practices so that I can better relate to those people and give them things that mean more to them, like in a way that speaks to what they do. You know, I mean, that's the hardest thing is like, there's so many different things we can adapt to and niche ourselves out into. And they get their own lingo that like, we can sometimes say the same thing in a different way and it won't click. So it's trying to like experience things and figure out that feeling. Cause there's always that feeling. Like I'm getting huge into this. I don't know why I just got to this, but the sounds we make being a cueing structure I use right now. So like specifically with the fighters, there's a lot of like, yeah, bah, like big sounds.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When they're trying to put that perfect kick or punch in. And in the gym, what I've been doing with all them right now is like, I need to hear that sound immediately. I don't want it on set 6 with rep 7, like, because now you're warmed up and you think you're in it and you're starting to feel the juices flowing. I want it on 1 of 1, you know what I mean? And I want you to start tapping into that, like, because that sound usually arises when everything is right for that person. And everybody sort of makes their own unique one. So if you can parrot yourself and sort of mimic it. So I'll start like trying to be able to parrot somebody's sound and start being like, instead of like counting a rep or like, hey, be here. I just go, fa, chat, chat. Okay? Or bing, bing, boom is one of my guys. It's bing, bing, boom. And if I say bing, bing, boom, everything just lines up and there's a little more heat behind the next rep or something. And I'm loving that because
wait, his sound is like bing.
Yeah, he goes bing, bing, boom, bing, 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 boom. Like if it's a boom, then it's a boom. And that's for internally, he's saying that, you know what I mean? So like if he's saying that, that means something to him. Yeah. And there's a experience behind that and it all lines up when it's a boom. So if I say boom,
that's awesome.
If I say boom, it all lines up. If we're doing a snatch or something, like he's never done a snatch, a dumbbell snatch, like I don't even do that all the time, but maybe I want to do one with him today. It's a fucking boom. And it's like, boom. And he just hits it. Yeah. Which is a cool thing to explore. And I think a great place for, the thing I'm trying to do now is trying to get somebody to get to the sound now quicker. Because not everything usually has it. Like kettlebells, we always had, it was like when you do swings, it was like a choo, choo. Like you make a big exhale at the top and certain lifts have stuff. But it's trying to find that for somebody and then put them in someplace that can experience that. And I do, I really like throwing light med balls at walls and like keep them light, like under 6 pounds.
What's that do for you?
So big thing I do with it is I develop sequencing with it. So I get somebody to relate to the position, a coiled position that we do. There's a couple different sort of variations of it, but I get them to trust that. So it's light and they can bounce between different sequences with stuff. And they'll
that's a heavy one, yeah.
Yeah, that was I did it. I did the same sequence light prior to it, and then I did a heavy one. But you'll just see I just sort of hit like the left, right, like this constant, like all I'm thinking about is this little contraction in my side bend on my body. And like that's all I think about, or my sound or whatever it is. And then it's like a 500-pound deadlift on nails. That's a weird little feat I do.
Okay,
I've done a 700-pound deadlift on nails.
Standing on nails barefoot.
Yeah. It feels great, man. I don't know. It feels
great.
It feels incredible. I feel like actually when I do that, it's like the best thing I've ever done for myself when I do that.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Is there any danger of your feet getting punctured?
No, only when you like misstep on it and you step on like 3 nails instead of the whole thing. But I have not. I guess when I did the 700, I do think the nail board stuck to my foot. Ooh. But it was like just crummy dead skin. I don't think it was like, I wasn't bleeding or anything. But yeah, that med ball sequencing, I start with something simple and I try to get them to the vocalization as quick as possible. And then over 3 or 4 sets, I try to establish I add sequencing to it. So new way, like jump one way, face the other direction, whatever it be, but it's all the same position. All right. Trying to think if there was a.
And this is like what, a 2 something?
That's 180, 176 right there, I think.
Shush.
Yeah.
For years on this podcast, we've been talking about the benefit of barefoot shoes. And these are the shoes I used to use back in like 2017, 2018. My old Metcons. They are flat, but they're not very wide and they're very stiff and they don't move. That's why we've been partnering with and we've been using Vivo barefoot shoes. These are the Modus Strength shoe because not only are they wide, I have wide ass feet, and so do we here on the podcast, especially as our feet have gotten stronger, but they're flexible. So when you're doing certain movements, like let's say you're doing jumping or you're doing split squats or you're doing movements where your toes need to flex and move, your feet are able to do that and perform in this shoe, allowing them to get stronger over time. And obviously, they're flexible. So your foot's allowed to be a foot. And when you're doing all types of exercise, your feet will get stronger, improving your ability to move. Andrew, how can they get their hands on these?
Yes, head to vivobarefoot.com/powerproject and enter the code that you see on screen to save 20% off your entire order. Again, that's at vivobarefoot.com/powerproject. Links in the description as well as the podcast show notes.
When you have, you got a lot of great athletes coming into the lab, but you probably also have a lot of great coaches coming through.
Absolutely. That's the thing I pride myself in the most. Yeah, is teaching coaches. Like we do courses almost every month. We have 2 levels of education we do. We do the RMTS, Rotational Movement Training Specialist, and it's like we do a little introduction to the tools we use, but we also just start the movement language with people and start establishing that. It's like a 6 to 8 hour event. And then that leads right into our WMQ. It's a 2-day thing, and we teach more tools and just get into more like concept, like into the torsion theory, because I kind of really want people to understand how to coil and start establishing the language. And then I want to show you how to lift with it. Like I'll teach you how to lift sandbags, and I'll apply all this to the power lifts and just show how all of this works in that, and how you can make a bench press carry over to sprinting. And why not? Like, because you can absolutely do that if you look at it in a different way and you associate the volume that you're going to do on it a little differently. But like you mentioned earlier, it's like sometimes it feels good to be under that pressure. Like people need to experience pressure. I think that's something that most people are missing is they've never experienced it. Like I take that for granted now that I kind of had that growing up, but like, man, like usually if I have something feeling off in my body, I need to go do a back squat. Like my body just wants to pressurize again real quick, and I feel great right after that.
Makes you feel stronger.
Yeah, there's
like,
a lot. There's emotional shit that can come around it too, but like there's something about that, like just being able for your bones just to feel all that.
Yeah.
Like stack up right on it. Everything's working out right. So, and I'm really big on like pin lifts, so like quarter lifts on everything too. Like, especially because I retain a low body weight. And I'm not chasing the lift itself. I'm chasing the experience of the weight. I want to feel that on my bone structure and how to handle it and manage it. And then I'll do some still heavy stuff, full range of motion. But I think there's just a ton of benefit in that.
I love that you mentioned that, because that's something that I'm going to start bringing back. Like just walking out, not squatting 600 or 700.
Just walk out.
Just pressurize, feel, hold. I just want to do that.
I used to walk. I had this one rack at one of the gyms I was at. It was like a 6-foot walk from one side of the rack to the otit, and I used to just walk like 700 pounds across to the other one and rack it. I need to like just do that back and forth, because it's just it's just safe, easy, felt really good on your body.
Yeah. I got to start using the yoke again.
Yeah,
I just realized right now, like, why don't I just fucking go use the yoke?
Don't need a fucking rack, just get a yoke.
Yeah.
That would be simple. So yeah, I think carrying is really important. Anything that gets you moving. On that, like something I felt was really interesting. You guys know Donnie Thompson.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So like he came out and he did his tempering thing with us at the lab, and he just kind of was like talking at lunch or something. He was talking about like his time when he broke 3,000 or whatever. And he was talking about all the prep work he did. Because I think he was mentioning like there were definitely other guys that should have done it back then, but maybe they just like got hurt or weren't feeling right, or just shit happens like that at that point. But he was like speaking so highly about all the like conditioning he was doing, the accessory stuff he was doing. And like nobody there really cared about lifting maybe per se. So I don't think people were paying attention, but man, I was just like
1,300 pound squat.
I was just fucking like locked in on what he was saying about his accessory work. And he was talking about doing hand-to-hand kettlebell swings, which is this RMT. That's that walk it out thought process, Sam. He was dragging stuff and he was pushing stuff. And it was just all this stuff that just got back to that idea of like making it locomotive, like walking it out, walk out all that shit that you're putting on your body. And like, he just felt like that was the thing that made him feel fucking good and like allowed him to do what he did. So, and I don't know, I took that to like heart. Like that was like a huge piece of accessory stuff, because accessory stuff could have just been same side stuff or a similar pattern and lighter in the middle or something like, but that idea that it became like alternating and repetitive, I think is huge.
Yeah, Donnie Thompson would do, in between his sets of dynamic effort squat work, he would do kettlebell cleans and kettlebell snatches.
Yeah, cool. Which meant he was doing like a single side thing. Like I just love that idea of like.
Yeah, it was so, I mean, he wasn't resting that much. And he would train with no belt. He had like 5 plates on there. He would do sets of 3. I mean, he did it at my gym. He stayed with us for a few weeks as he was kind of working on trying to break the all-time world record, or not the all-time world record, but break his own world record and break 3,000.
Yeah.
And it was just cool to see him. Like, I was in awe because I was like, this is a big guy. Like, he's in tremendous shape. Like, his conditioning was through the roof because he was barely resting in between these triples that he was doing with 500 pounds on the squat rack. And in between that, he's, hammering out this kettlebell work. And then when he was done with that, he did a bunch of speed deadlifts.
Okay.
And he did like 8 sets of 3 reps with like 5 plates. And just interesting perspective. He felt that on that particular day, the intent of the day, which I think is really important to try to have an intent of your training. And for him, the intent of that day was to move fast and to be conditioned. And so that's why he didn't wear a belt, because he's like, if I throw a belt on, he's like, we're going to stack on more plates. And the intent is going to be ruined. So I really thought that was interesting.
Yeah, awesome. Okay.
Huge guy.
Yeah, yeah, cool.
So you guys do multiple courses like every month?
Yeah, I think I have them all lined up right now. I at least have options all the way up to December 2025 right now. I usually do, I do like a 3-day weekend. It's our level 1 or level 2, sort of back to back. I like for people to be able to get like that full immersion in it if you're into it, or you can kind of a la carte them and do them how you want.
And people are learning how to use the rope and everything?
Yeah, so level 1, we do all the foundations of like the rope, how to start utilizing pulsers, so audible feedback training, and we learn about limit force elastics, so how we use elastic bands to sort of like, we pull them apart to the limit to sort of help people establish positional work, which is the coil. So like that's our positions before transitions. It's like learning to like feel the position, get this huge tactile experience. It's accessible to everybody. We do a 1/2-inch band. Like, you can pull that thing apart and absolutely everybody in the room can find their level that they need with it. You can take it with you everywhere, and you just start developing the position. And then the rope sort of becomes this perfect little segue into like expressing between those positions. And that's where I said, if you're starting to get really everybody that gets into it, I always try to get them to come back and like sort of come through us. So you get the weight transfer component to it, and you start recognizing the coil component to it and where we want you, basically. And that, especially if you're looking, usually if you get into rope, you're going to want to get into mace or Bulgarian bag or something else that has a rigidity to it. And you need to be out of your own way when you get to that practice if you want to do similar patterns. And that idea of getting over one side of it and coiling, opens up the that ability to swing a mace on one side. Or if you imagined it was a sword and there's a blade and something that can cut the shit out of you, like, you want to get out of your own way. So you can't stand in the middle here and do all this stuff. You need to like get where you need to be and slice up vertically and things, so you're not cutting off your own Achilles. You know what I mean? So
is that an area that people maybe mess up a little bit when they do the rope? Is that they're
I wouldn't even call it a mess up. I wouldn't call it a mess up, because like I don't think we showed maybe I wasn't paying attention to some of my early rope ones. I'm literally like, I like sidestep out of the way. Like everybody will do that because they're stuck over themselves, and I'm stuck over myself at that point. I didn't know how to like let up. I didn't even know it was okay to walk with it.
But there's kind of like no wrong way, because you're going to correct that at some point.
You naturally, so all I would say is like, get your 10,000 reps, and like you'll start noticing you'll want to do the next thing. Like, and that's what I love about that practice. It will evolve itself if you have no direction. That's what happened with mine. Yeah. So like, you'll see I sort of like sidestep out of the way, and I'm like feet together. I didn't even know how to do this move. Yeah. Like I pivot on my heels. Like, I don't even know what the fuck I'm doing. But it's just like,
it's just a start.
Yeah, you just start. That's the thing. It doesn't matter. Like, everybody, you like, who cares what it looks like and all that? You'll just start like, you will start feeling something in your brain, and you are just like, God, I have got to do more of this. Like, something about that feels so good for me.
There's definitely nothing wrong with moving your arms around your body versus moving your body around your arms.
No, there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. It's literally irrelevant, right? Yeah, but as you chase the efficiencies and want to just feel like the possibilities with it, that's where you'll start seeing like, that kind of stuff will open up room. Like if you're hitting yourself in the head, you're like, why do I keep hitting myself in the head? It's because like, you got to get out of your way and like be thankful it's not a blade. It's a rope. It's not a mace. It's not a staff, like the bow staff. A lot of the patterns would be the bow staff or nunchuck or lots of other little tool wielding weapons work or thing you might want to do. So
one thing I do love though is like, before using the rope, I never really used a mace, but becoming proficient with the rope, once I picked up a mace, it's like it just came naturally. Yeah. It just because all those patterns just line up.
Same patterns. You get to rely. You take one tool and you educate the other tool with it. Okay, and then ultimately you're the tool, right? You're fucking tool, Nsima. You're welcome. But like wield you and have a strategy behind you that goes to the tool, and the tool, and you just keep passing it on. Yep. And you're all learning from all of it. So, is
there anything new that you're like? Because I know you're always working on different stuff, trying new things. What's like captured your interest the most recently?
I was getting into BFR training. We talked about that a little bit.
Oh yeah. So
the
cuffs.
Yeah, I've been really liking that. I use the Saga Fitness brand.
It's a blood flow restriction, right?
Yeah, blood flow restriction. Yeah, and sort of what piqued me on it is I just put some rubber bands around my arm for like a photo shoot we were doing for the hybrid rope that we sell. And like, I just wanted to make my veins look a little poppy. I was like, yeah, I'll just throw a band on real quick. Like, I'll make it look like I was working hard or whatever. To be honest. And I was like, holy shit. Like, I'm getting a fucking pump right now, man. I was like, I don't mind chasing a pump. And I'm like, I'm roping. Like, I can get a pump. Yeah. Like, let's do this. And I was like, oh shit, I used to see like Duffin do blood flow all the time. I feel like I was like,
it's big in bodybuilding when you get injured, BFR, so you can maintain and maintain little muscle. Yeah.
Dude. So like, I'm wearing some there. I just got hooked on that. I've been doing that like almost every day, to be honest with you. I love it.
It's feeling good.
Oh, it feels so good. I'll sit in, I do it 80%, well, based on whatever it says it is, because it's an app, I don't fucking know. It says 80% occlusion. And
even though it's way up on your like tricep, elbow, shoulder, does it make the elbows feel good and the rest of the forearm and stuff? Is there like a lot of pressure in there?
No, I don't get a lot of pressure. I feel really good in the arms. I love it with the arms so far. I'm like a huge fan of that. Roping with it. I've been getting fighters to shadow box in it a little bit. It's like I've been doing like 3-minute rounds with them and stuff. I think that's been a real big thing to help.
And you're able to get those on yourself and everything.
Yeah, these are super easy and they inflate them. So these are the digital ones. So they like inflate via an app. That's why I said I don't 100% know what that means, but like it's up there.
So you say you do 80% on the upper body?
I'm doing 80%.
I did 60%, and I am like, oh,
dude. At first, dude, I'm up to like 80, and then like I'll just like actually use normal weight I use, and like I'll go for 30 minutes, and like I feel awesome when I do that. Strangely. Oof. I was just doing the 15-minute. I think they recommend like 15 minutes a day traditionally at like 50% in the arms. But I'm sure it's just like a safety thing.
Good. I'm happy to hear you do that. I'm gonna amp it up. But it's pretty amazing doing it while you use the rope, because like you get an insane pump while doing rope flow. But I'm just like, I would think like in the context of somebody, let's say it's somebody who doesn't do a crazy amount of resistance training, right? And they're just in this zone of doing all this rope stuff. Maybe they can still get some aspect of hypertrophy.
That was what I was excited about, man. Yeah, it was like, it's like just a little tip like that. That like, and I love that I keep seeing people use it, and it's usually done in like a I hurt myself way, and everything's real like basic and sort of simple. And I was like, dude, that's like a super complex movement pattern. Like, I want to wear these to really complex sequencing and things like that. And what does that do to me? Because you're getting like what do you get, like a systemic growth hormone from it and all that, and whatever the fuck else it's doing for you. Yeah. But you know, like
the blood all pulls here. It doesn't go back. So you're just getting all this blood hanging out here while you're continuing to do rep after rep after rep, you know?
And then, if you're messing with it too, and you're not just roping in it. So I was doing sets of like, I'd do a set of 15 or something, and I would rope in between the thing. And I noticed I felt more comfortable the whole time when I did that. Like if I sat there and only did like sets of 15 and like took a minute, like I said, and then 15, I felt terrible. Like it was whoa. But if I just pick up the rope and went in between, it like changed the whole experience as well. So I think that's really cool. I've been boxing a little bit lately. I'm not good at it or anything.
Nice.
I'm kind of fiddling with that right now. I'm enjoying that process right now, but I've never felt like I was good at striking. I'm way more into grappling. That's why I like a big heavy sandbag and grab the shit out of it and do something with it. That tactile, like wrestling around feels way more natural for me. But it's been fun. I'm like improving on that pretty rapidly. Probably get back to getting an actual coach for it so I don't pick up any bad habits, but...
Quick question about sandbags, because you kind of touched on it earlier. You're pretty fucking strong you're prolific with sandbags. Like you're almost out of 400, right? Are there any? Because I think a lot of people when they start lifting sandbags, it feels a little bit unsafe for them. They don't feel maybe they tweak something when they last tried to lift a sandbag, and they're like, you know what, fuck this, I'm not going to mess with this implement. What are some keys of being able to progress with that type of implement and understand it safely?
Yeah, cool. So I have two things I'm trying to push with people right now. One would be like elevating the bag. So just having it up.
Mm-hmm.
So you maybe the lower end of the pick is probably the hard part for somebody.
Yeah.
And then the second thing is I actually think most of the bags are too tiny. So I feel like you can't get enough surface area to actually experience what the fucking lift is. So you don't really get that till you get to the bigger bags. So what I really am trying to recommend to people right now is like get a big bag and fill it with different media. All right. So get a 300. I think the 400s tend to actually be, if you're like my size, like that 400 feels a little too big. And I think that's the thing that held me back when I was really chasing it. Excuses. Eat that shit. But I think like the 300-pound bag just made sense. Like I could have a consistent lift with it. I like the weight of it. I like the size of it. And if I could start putting like steel shot in that and getting it to be a 350, get that to be a 375, like I just want to put a fucking sandbag to my shoulder. I don't fucking care the shape of it. Like it gets substantially bigger when it goes to that 400. It's weird. So I think people need to probably get like a 250, like an average person starting, and like fill it with crumb rubber, like rubber mulch.
Rubber.
Yeah, like rubber mulch from Home Depot. You can get that stuff. We just we fill up the 400 right now. It usually, when you stuff it, it's about 100 to 150 pounds. And then you got this nice big bag. It's great for jujitsu, by the way. It's almost better than some of the grappling dummies. Like having that 400-pound bag at 150, it's nice.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Having the 400-pound bag, filling it with 150 pounds of rubber mulch.
Yeah, you just stuff that thing. It'll be depending on the brand. It's probably about 150 pounds. And then I'm trying to come up with a consistent solution to trying to get more weight in it outside the crumb rubber and still have it be full, because you want the bag to be like full.
I think in the gym, I think we have a 125 or so med ball that's pretty big, right?
Yeah, you got those XD
so,
Fit
yeah.
ones.
Yeah, those are kind of neat.
They're sick. Yeah,
Because
I
that's
used to
a
have
nice
those.
shape, you know.
Yeah, I love that brand. I had them up to 150 for a while. But I'm trying to think of trying to find a way to suspend weight through the middle, like a cylinder or something that could go down in the bag, probably like a cardboard pipe rather than like a PVC pipe. But something like that maybe could sit in the middle of it. And you could start loading like sand through the cylinder. So you get it to be like a 175 because there's sand in the center and then rubber around it. I don't know. I got to figure that out. That's a bag we could make maybe.
That's good. Oh,
Pretty cool.
Yeah. But yeah, I think a lot of people would enjoy the practice more if they started with bags that looked way too heavy for them that felt great.
And my last,
Just like those balls. Those balls, they're big. They're that 21-inch diameter, I think.
Yeah, even the 50-pound one's huge.
Yeah, it just makes that now it feels like what it's supposed to feel like when you're actually like picking the stones.
Right.
They're like the little actual concrete stones. You can't do any of the mechanics you do for the big stones. So it's like I got a stone of steel from Mark Bartos, I think it is what it is. I got one of those bad boys. So I can load that thing. Like I PR'd 315, I think I did. Like I picked it and did some shit with it. So
yeah,
that's nice having that like big stone that you can just it was 100 pounds if it's unloaded and you can get it heavy. So
let me ask you this. I don't know how long you've been working with sandbags, but have you noticed a carryover that it has differently than working with just like the same type of weight or more weight on a barbell? What have you noticed there?
Oh, dude, you're just like a fucking animal doing it. Like way more. Like, yes, there's just so much more going on you're reacting to, and it's not the same lift every time. That would be the big thing for me. It is a very different lift every time. Every lift's probably a little different, but like it's a different situation.
Yeah.
And I like taking something I've learned and bringing it to a new situation and seeing if it applies and learning from that new experience. So I think that's what bags sort of offer. It's just that constant learning and adaptive sort of nature to stuff. So
and there's many ways to lift it. That's one thing I love. Like you can lift it in you can do the classical strongman type of lift.
Yeah.
But then if you want to lift it more explosively, there's a lot of ways to get that weight off the ground.
Oh, did you send him the video of me doing it with my feet?
Yeah. I mean, I think he pulled it up once, but
the sandbag.
It'll be there again. But that was really sick.
The clean and throw.
Yeah.
With my feet. With the 150.
I love the different setups that you have for stuff. I saw the tire was attached to a rubber band and stuff.
Yeah, that a good friend of mine, he showed me that. The guy that actually introduced me and Dave together.
That sandbag says 150, by the way.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
You jumped up, you kicked it up in the air and then caught it. Wow.
Yeah.
Caught it in that position.
Yeah.
Handled that weight, then brought it up and threw
it's
it
like
overhead.
your back, like, ugh.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this too. I think a lot of people would see stuff like this and they'd say,
It's
how
dumb.
can my back? Well, it's dumb, but two, like, how can your back handle this? Like, I was doing some sandbag stuff on my Instagram. I posted it up, and people are like, "How can you lift the bag like that? How's that good for your back?" And I'm just like, what are your thoughts there after exposing your back to all these type of stresses over the years? Are you scared at all?
No, seriously, that's immediately something you don't want to have. Don't fucking like fear stuff. What a block to fuck up your whole fucking body, man. Like, that's what I was saying. It's like just trusting. It's getting rid of those little fears of doing things wrong or not trusting yourself and all that bullshit. That's like at every layer of anything, competitive or anything. You gotta fucking trust it. And like just the general person, like constantly feeling like they can't trust themselves.
Just
you gotta
start with a lighter weight.
Yeah, do a lighter weight and just like
okay.
have fun doing it, number one. Because FYI, that was after me sitting at my desk for 6 hours writing emails and doing a bunch of bullshit. And my back was not feeling good actually from sitting at the desk. And I was like, and then I saw like a buddy of mine like actually kind of did that. And I was like, I'm going to fucking do that because he's like way bigger than me. And I was like, I'm going to do it the same weight as him, if not heavier. So I was like, fuck that guy. Yeah, I have little weird competitions with myself like that. So like, I'm like, you know, I'm a jaguar of this shit too. So I just fucking got up and did it.
Yeah.
Like, who cares? I'm really intrigued by like classic strongman and circus strongman from back in the day and just like showmanship. Like the Instagram is fucking wonderful for that. And like everybody thinks it's fucking cuckoo and circus acts, but fuck yeah, man. Circus acts are fucking awesome. And that was like a fucking art back in the day, man. Like I'm so like impressed with all that stuff. And like who doesn't love somebody's dad that fucking just does random bullshit? You know what I mean? Like when you go over to their house and they like had a couple too many and do something fun and big and strong or something. That's cool, man. I love that.
Who are the mutants that you're checking out on Instagram?
Oh, Tom DeGooley. That's my guy for sure. He's a fucking monster.
I saw this guy. I don't know exactly what his Instagram handle is, but it was something Hercules, and he's been doing these like crazy, like one hand, on a barbell or on a, like a chin-up bar, and then just like holding like a crazy amount of weight.
Oh yeah, maybe yeah. I used to do like the LC hang like clean and press. I think I got up to like almost. I think I might have done. Like,
and then there was a dude the other day who gripped. So
he's a mutant, by the way. I've watched him like grow too. He's incredible.
World's Strongest Man Wade Hooper posted a video. He said he's like, no one in the world can do this, and he took the 70-pound plate, that big plate that I have in the gym, and he flipped it and he tried to catch it, and he just can't catch it. And then some other dude like showed this huge guy, and the guy was able to actually do it. It's pretty wild.
Fuck. See, I just love it. That's like, I just think that's cool to see if you can just pull something off. Like,
what's this guy's name again? I'm sorry.
Tom DeGooley.
Yeah, show a couple of videos.
Yeah, he's my buddy Alex Canellis. He was my co-head coach at WEC Method. He does Landmine University.
Yeah. Yeah, he's doing heavy landmines.
Yeah, so he's our heavyweight champ in the landmine games. The landmine games are coming up at the end of the month, January 24th.
Sick! I didn't even know it was a thing.
Yeah, this is the second one we've done. That's pretty cool.
Down in San Diego.
Yeah, he comes to the lab. He comes back to home base, and everybody, all the mutants come out, and we lift some heavy.
That's
I think
cool.
he did 5 plates. I think is what he set the record on last time, which is pretty incredible. He does strongman now, I think, or he does like a bunch of competitions, but I think he did strongman as well.
Yeah, who are some of the other people?
Edward Choice is one of my coaches. I think he's incredible. He has come a long way. He's flipping monster bells. The guy couldn't even pick up a 50-pound kettlebell, I feel like, when I met him, and he's throwing around same weights as me right now on the bells. Nice. And he is like the embodiment of our practice. So I love when seeing somebody can pick up rope, kettlebell, every single piece of the practice and apply it for themselves, be successful and coordinated with it, and have huge growth. So it's not just coming from us. I mean, he's one of my head coaches now, but I mean, he's really earned that spot in that regard.
Cool. All right. Strength is never weakness. Weakness never strength. Catch you guys later. Bye.